Welcome. Welcome to the experiment. I record this so that I can watch it again and learn and do better. And I also have a team that edits out any time that you are talking, only keeps the parts where I'm talking, and we share invitations from the experiment um, out and beyond here. I am the host of the experiment. My name is Sarah. And as the host, I see it as my job to spread the word about this methodology. So that is why this is recorded. Here is how the experiment works. It is simply an invitation to feel your feelings, whatever feelings are here right now. Here on the call, it's kind of like a lab. In a few minutes, I will start making specific invitations to you to feel your feelings around certain things. But in the end, it is simply an invitation to feel whatever is here right now. Couple things about this. For some people, feeling their feelings, they're like, I don't know if I'm doing it right, or I don't even know if I'm feeling my feelings. That's okay. Simply feel what is here. And if you're not even sure if you're feeling your feelings, pretend you are. That's how great the experiment is. It's very playful. It works well with people who are not quite sure. If you have thoughts that come up, they are wildly helpful in the experiment. Your work is to feel the feeling of the thoughts that show up. I think of thoughts in the experiment like a tray if you're at a party and they're passing hors d'oeuvres. The thoughts are the hors d'oeuvres that are there for you to enjoy. The thoughts are the tray that holds the feelings that are there for you to enjoy or not enjoy, to participate in. So go ahead and welcome your thoughts. When I say the experiment is an invitation to feel the feelings that are here right now and feel them all the way, what my cue is to know that I have felt a feeling all the way is often a new thought will show up or a new feeling will show up. And then the invitation is to feel that feeling or to feel the feeling of the thought that has showed up. What are a couple other things I want to share with you about the experiment? There is no need to know the name of the feeling that you're feeling. You don't need to know this is sadness or this is happiness or that one's named Harvey or Marguerite. The work is simply here to feel what is there, to feel it all the way through until the next one arrives. Again, here in the lab of this experiment call, I will make invitations to you to feel feelings around certain things. That may work great for you. Instead, something else might show up for you that wants to be felt. That's perfect. Feel whatever is there. Here's how this call works. I will make an invitation. I will set a timer. I will feel feelings with you for that amount of time. It's usually 1 or 2 or 3 minutes. And then I'll open it up here for you to share your experience or to ask questions. That is not required. Please don't share something just because you feel bad for me if no one's talking. Share your experience or ask questions if you feel like doing that. If you don't, that's okay. If you do, that's great. It's all okay. You cannot do this wrong. There's no way you can do the experiment wrong. There's nothing to worry about there. You literally cannot do it wrong. And it's kind of weird. In my perfect scenario, it would be so fascinating or so interesting or so juicy or so wonderful for you to feel your feelings that I've become a distraction and you turn the volume down on me. So if that happens, that's great. My one invitation to you would be to set a timer right now for 10 minutes to the next hour. At that point, I'll be finishing up the call and giving you some guidance for coming out of this call. So please do set a timer right now for 10 to the next hour in case you just turn the volume down on me because what you're doing is so incredible. What else do I want to share? Thoughts, timing, getting lost in your own feelings. Okay, I think that's it for now. So we'll do the first invitation here. The first invitation is this. Let's start here and we'll just do this for a minute. Feel the feeling. Oh, let me get my timer going. Feel the feeling of the experiment. Feel the feeling of whatever is here to be felt. Feel it until it goes away, meaning a new thought or a new feeling shows up. Um, and it might include for you a what the hell is this, or who is she, or I don't trust her, or it's weird to shut my eyes. Great. Um, that's what you're invited to feel. So feel the feeling of whatever is here. We're going to do this for 1 minute. I will do this with you, and we'll start now. Hey, that was 1 minute of simply feeling what is here. Um, if you have a question or an experience you'd like to share, I would love to hear. That is perfect. And that is so common. That happens to me all the time. In the experiment, it's the invitation is to feel the distraction. Then, were you able to do that, or did you do that? Amazing, amazing. Yes. So, out of curiosity, did you go turn the heater off? Okay, okay. This is such a beautiful example of what happens in the experiment. It's like things show up to tell you things. Like that's keeping you safe, that thought. I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe not. In my head, I'm like, oh, that's saving you from, I don't know, overheating or paying a bigger bill or whatnot. Things will show up. And sometimes, for me anyway, it's like, oh, shit, I got to go do something about that. That was a helpful thing. Other times it's, oh, wow, feel the feeling of that distraction, which I say distraction in air quotes because my experience of the experiment is all of life is an invitation to be felt. And so there are no distractions. And I love that. At least I love that for me. Thank you for sharing that. Oh, such a great example of the experiment. Is there anybody else who feels, oh, I see another person unmuted themselves. Go ahead. And I see the comment. Oh, hi, child from college who's home. Um, I see a comment, perceived or actual distraction, the power dynamic. Whoops, I stopped looking. Power dynamics vary. Yes. In the experiment, like I said, there is no doing it wrong. Technically, there are no distractions. There are simply invitations. There are invitations to feel what shows up. So, what the experiment is kind of like a somatic practice, kind of like mindfulness, kind of, right? And a lot of overlap. And what I would say is your work, which I put in air quotes because this isn't really about doing anything. It's about receiving or feeling what is there. And technically, according to the dictionary, an emotion is the physical experience of something. A feeling is the words we use to talk about them. So when I say feel your feelings, in a way, I'm saying that just to be playful because it's repetitive to say feel your feelings instead of feel your emotions. But I'm also saying feel your feelings because what I'm attempting to talk about is feeling the feeling of the stuff we usually talk about. I hope that is not too weird of a way to describe that. Saying feel the feeling. So you may know, some of you may know, for example, I feel this in my stomach, or I end up holding a lot of things in my shoulder. I'll sometimes feel it there. That's not the requirement though. You may or may not know where you feel it. It's about almost like the energetic, feel the feeling of this energy going through you. And I don't want to make that a rule for you because my experience is the experience of feeling your feelings is different for everyone. So it may absolutely show up for you in your stomach, in your shoulders, in your here or there, or in your energy, or in like an electric sort of feeling. I see a comment here. Less a vessel delivery mechanism, more like vaccines or an antibody. Let me sit with that. Less, it's a vessel or delivery mechanism, like vaccines or the antibody. Here's what I would say. The experiment is about, here, let me back up. The experiment was inspired by, and gosh, I hesitate to say this because every time I say this, people end up going boom down this alleyway where I'm not intending you to go. So there's an alley over here that I'm going to talk about, and you can absolutely go down that alley. I'd prefer that you stay here in this main street. The experiment was inspired by David Hawkins' work that he describes in his book called Letting Go, and he describes in lots of his other books as well. What he talks about is feeling your, literally feeling your feelings, feeling them all the way. It is simply our work to feel our feelings. He says humans are in the habit of doing three things with our feelings that are not helpful. The first is we tend to stuff them. We just avoid them, right? We stuff them down. We don't feel them. The second thing we tend to do is escape from them. We run away from them. We do everything we can to get away from them. The third thing he says, which blows my mind and which first got my attention about this, is he says a third thing we do about our feelings is we talk about them, we express them. And they're not meant to be expressed, at least not first. What they're meant to be is felt first. And so for the comment / question about, so it's a vessel or delivery mechanism or like vaccines or an antibody, I would say to you and to anybody who's intrigued by that question, feel the feeling of that question, and from there you will get the knowing. And my experience of the feeling is, or the experiment is, when you feel the feeling of your thoughts, you get you get different information. You have thoughts, feel the feeling of those thoughts. You have questions, feel the feeling of those questions. And sometimes from that will bubble up new information. And sometimes what happens is you simply clear some energy that was getting pulled in lots of directions. And when I say clear, I want to be careful about that language. One of the things David Hawkins talks about, and he calls the book Letting Go, is you feel your feelings and then you let them go. Something that is different about what he says and what I say is this. In the experiment, the work is not to let it go. It's not to separate yourself from the feelings. It's to let them reintegrate or realign with you. So one metaphor I use in the experiment is, and I have not experienced this, but I've heard if your shoulder gets out of the joint, that it is very painful. Okay, this is hitting. Yes. So before your shoulder was frozen, my guess is you didn't give a lot of thought to, I have a shoulder, or what is my shoulder doing today? Right? You don't think about it. It gets frozen or it gets out of whack. It takes, I'm guessing, it feels that it is taking your energy. You might feel it is sucking your energy or spending your energy. This metaphor I use for feelings is when we escape from them or stuff them down or talk about them, they are like this frozen shoulder experience or a disjointed shoulder. You're very aware of it and it's taking your energy, your life force. In the experiment, this is about feeling this. And I would invite you to feel the shoulder, feel it. And by the way, feelings might be physical sensations, pains, happy, yummy feelings, release, relaxation. Our work is, again, I say work, it's a tricky word choice. In the experiment, it's about feeling those feelings. And that, in my experience, lets them reintegrate into us versus a sense of separating away from. And that's why I also say, feel the feeling of your thoughts. It is not about separating yourself from your thoughts. It's about feeling the feeling of the thoughts. I see there's a comment that I have not responded to. Our respective seasons of life, lens, we view the world, lived experience, and realities, along with epigenetics, have also a huge role to play. Thank you for that. In my experience, I will say the experiment is custom built for you by you. You have had a very specific life experience. And when you accept the invitation to feel whatever feeling is here to be felt in this moment, I believe the makeup of us provides the next most perfect feeling to be felt. Which, thank you for the person who said, oh my gosh, the heater's on in the other room. That was the most perfect thing for you in that moment, was to have the opportunity to feel the feeling of that heater being on in the other room. Thank you for these questions. Let's go in and experience. Let's do another experiment. Again, the only invitation is to feel what's available right now. And because here we are in the lab, I'm going to invite you to a specific experience, and you may go right down that road, but I want to say there is no discipline in the experiment. I'm going to send you in one direction. If your brain takes you to the heater in the other room or your shoulder or whatever, it's custom built for you by you. Go with wherever it takes you. And here's going to be the next experiment, which was really funny grammar, and I like it. Here's going to be the next experiment. The next invitation is to feel the feeling of your schedule this week. What's showing up in your schedule? We're going to feel the feeling of your schedule this week for 2 minutes. And again, the invitation is to feel whatever's there. I'm making this invitation to start with your schedule. You may stay with that for 2 minutes. You may go all over the place. We'll find out. Well, I love that some of you are going, and you should go. I just see a question. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. By you is tricky, as our thoughts are shaped by the collective. Yes, I would say it's custom built for you by you in whatever way you are aware of and connected to the collective. Right? Oh, beautiful, beautiful insight. Okay. So 2 minutes. If you're already going, I love it. Feel the feeling of your schedule this week. That was 2 minutes of feeling the feeling of your schedule or whatever showed up. Who has a question or something they'd like to share from that experiment? Thank you for sharing that. It's a whole bunch of this and that and this and that, opposites, paradox. Wow. Um, thank you. I saw a comment, spaced out completely. Perfect. This happens. You cannot do it wrong. That is perfect. Experiencing paradox galore is perfect. That is the experiment. It is custom built for you in however you define you, by you. It's custom built by the collective for the collective. Anybody else have a question or an experience they'd like to share? My experience on this side is, and I'll back up a little bit because you're all here for the first time. And by the way, you're all here for the first time, and I'm trying so hard to be cool, and I'm not cool. So I'm going to stop trying hard to be cool. I'm so pumped that you're here. Um, Backing up a little bit, I don't want to spend tons of time on this, but in May, reading David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, I had these insights of like, holy crap, there's a different way this might work. And I started trying it. And I was already hosting a bi-weekly call on some other content that I switched to this as my own personal experiment to see if it was cool for me, as cool for other people as it was for me. And that has simply continued. So, in my experience, the experiment is teaching me how to get it out in the world. And so I have 4 pages of prompts that have come to me through the experiment and through other people. And about a month ago, I got a prompt that said, quit bringing your paperwork, Sarah. Listen to the collective of who's here. And so I simply close my eyes and listen until something shows up. Spaced out completely. Perfect. Oh, so related to the last comment, the blur between performative action and soul essence is okay, cool. Okay, you're loving it. I love that too. This feels like parts work at the same time. Amazing. On Saturday, I got to have dinner with a woman who studied with that dude. Why can't I think of his name? Glazer, the dude who invented IFS, whatever, the host of Dick Schwartz. Thank you. She studied with him, and we got to have a conversation about how is the experiment and parts work. How are they similar, the same, slightly different? I had a lovely experience in September where I spontaneously started identifying the parts of me, and I felt them, and I felt them completely. I felt the part of me who makes money. I felt her. And instead of keeping her separate and at work, I got to integrate her into me. I got to feel her completely. Yes. Oh my gosh, goosebumps. What an amazingly cool group of humans you are. I see another one. A Trojan horse, the trickster parts. Oh my gosh, you're blowing my mind. Yes. I actually think the experiment is the trickster in so many ways. It's like the trickster coming to play with us. And only one of the reasons I feel that way is because of the way it works, that whatever the next thought or the next feeling, that's the next juicy bit. And if the next thought or next feeling is total distraction, that is the next juicy bit. Oh, it's just so trickster. Here is what is coming to me for the next invitation. You used many paradoxes, performative versus soul, existential dread versus hope. My invitation to each of you is to find a paradox that feels alive for you in your life. And then we're going to feel both of the pieces. So we're going to feel, I'm just going to pick on performative and soul, but you're going to pick one. You're going to feel the feeling of both of those at the same time. When I've done this in the past, for some people, they need to feel one and then the other, and then one and then the other, and then one and the other. And sometimes they don't come together to be felt at the same time. And that's perfect. So will you give me like a wave or a heads up that if you have your paradox? Okay, I see one of you does. 2, okay. Ooh, transcendent. Okay, cool. So, and let's do it. Actually, I'm going to look for feedback. Will you put in the chat? Would you like a little, like I'm 1 minute or 2 or 3, meaning like a little bit less or a little bit more is what I'm looking for. 3, one person says 3. Oh, I was leaning in that direction, but okay, good. We'll do 3 minutes. And again, it may be that you feel one and then the other, and then back to the first one and then the second one, or maybe you start with feeling both. It will tell you how it wants to work. And I'm just gonna, I got it. Okay, here we go. That was 3 minutes. Who has something you'd like to share or a question from that experiment? Thank you for sharing that. I'm excited for you to read it too. And again, I said, like, every time I say this, people run down that alley. There's parts of his work that are so expansive and incredible to me, and then parts that give me a little pause. For example, he talks a lot about ignoring our thoughts. And for me, that feels like unnecessary separateness. So I'm just putting that little asterisk in there. And like I also mentioned, he talks about this process of like letting things go, which also feels to me like unnecessary separateness versus integrating into the oneness that we are. That's my take on him. He is a famous dude. He has an MD and a PhD. I am not famous. I am not a dude. I have a master's degree. This thing showed up in my life in May. So, you can weigh and measure how you want to deal with my opinions about David Hawkins' masterful work. Anybody else have something they'd like to share or a question from that experiment? This is such a perfect example of how the experiment is built for you by you. I've had people do this exercise who are instantly within whatever 3 seconds have both of them and they've walked through a portal, and others who've tried and all they have is one or the other. It's for you, by you. So it was perfect. Yeah, yeah, and not uncommon, your experience. Also for me, I have had that as well, where it's just this one thing, just there's a lot to feel. So great, feel it. Feel it and feel it and feel it. I see a comment here. If one doesn't have a proper scaffolding, it's like scars where both light and darkness can enter. Ooh. For me, it's family caring work for special needs for decades. The dualities around taking care while feeling I'm being capped, losing an opportunity. Okay, so hope, drive versus resentment, struggles, cognitive and spiritual bandwidth expenditure. You write in poetry. I don't know if you write in poetry on purpose or if you're aware that you're doing it. Wow. I try to be careful on this call to only speak from my experience. I do not know what others are experiencing when they hear those words. That resonates for me inside of my own version of living. And for me, since the experiment showed up in May, I mean, word by word or sentence by sentence in what you just shared is an invitation to feel each of those pieces. Feeling anything that doesn't have proper scaffolding. You can simply feel the parts of you that don't have proper scaffolding. You can feel scars. In the experiment, you can feel a concept. For example, I am now feeling the parts of me that don't have proper scaffolding. You don't have to know what they are. You can just say, this is what I am feeling, and feel it. In my experience, what I sometimes do in my life, when I first found the experiment, I was like, great, I can deal with my body image issues that have shown up since hitting perimenopause. This will be great. I'll solve it in 10 minutes. Nope. I just, like, my brain said, we're going to deal with this. And then my brain popped me out to somewhere else. And again, I say the experiment is custom built for you, by you. You can go in with an intention, maybe even to feel two things that are opposites of each other. And your brain will say, oh, no, 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 we're not doing both of those right now. You're going to spend 90% of your time on one, and then we'll get 10% for the other. And some other day, we'll feel them both. My experience inside of the experiment is, and as I get to spend time with other people who use the experiment, is it is very loving toward us. It will not push us into something we are not ready for. It also is loving. It doesn't keep us away from things either. It knows right at the moment we're ready to experience this. I think it is very nurturing, very loving, very gentle, while also very accelerated in a lot of ways. I see another comment here. If one doesn't have a proper, oh no, whoops, next one. Oh, the dopamine. Oh, the feeling of the feeling has some externality to the dopamine trap, especially considering unearned dopamine with no relative execution. Wow. Would you mind speaking and sharing? I'm not quite sure I understand your last two observations there. Thank you. Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. That's what you're referring to. So, yes, my experience inside of the experiment, because it's not about naming it, it's not about saying you're anxious, you're angry. It's simply about feeling whatever is there. And again, I'm only speaking from my experience and what other people have told me. I can't promise what I'm about to say is your experience, but I can promise what my experience is that you're bringing it inward when you're simply feeling it. And when you're naming it, that's not a bad thing. It's just not the assignment. It's simply about feeling, feeling, feeling. Oh, yes. Okay, yes, they linger on. This is, again, my experience with the experiment is I'm going to make up an arbitrary thing, which isn't a thing. Let's pretend this feeling is the equivalent of this much water. I know I'm making up a silly thing, but right, to actually feel the feeling of something, a trauma in your life, you would have to feel this much water. In my experience in the experiment, you might in one moment or 30 seconds or 3 minutes feel this much of it. And then again, custom built for you by you, the experiment's like, that's enough. That's it. And then you go through your life, and another time you come and you experience a little bit more. And I shouldn't say experience, you feel a little more. And so, in my experience, the experiment is almost like, oh, it's not the right metaphor. I was going to say planets, but it's not right. Cycles, where, a spiral, such a helpful metaphor for so many things, right? You come around to this one and you're able to feel a big chunk. And then you go through life and you come around again and maybe a little chunk. So it is definitely something. It's not like you felt it completely. You felt it fully for this time, in this moment, in this day, in your particular way that you show up. I always want to say, does anybody have a question or an experience they would like to share? And I always want to move us into let's experience it here on this call because that's where it's at. I don't think I have a list of not to do's. That's my first thought, but let me sit with that for a moment. I guess I will say the three places to notice, to be aware of, are when you're starting to feel the desire to shove it down. And I'm not saying don't shove it down. I am saying feel the fact that you're wanting to stuff it. I know that's a bit of a fine line there, but that's a little like, oh, we like to stuff this. Great. Go ahead and stuff it. Feel the feeling, I want to stuff it. Second one, there will be times when you want to escape from it, meaning distract yourself, get busy, think a lot about it. Notice the desire to escape from it and feel the desire to escape from it. That's the next invitation. I don't want to deal with this. Great. Feel the feeling of, I don't want to deal with this. And then the third one is when you want to talk, 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 express, express. I'm not saying don't talk about it. I am saying feel the feeling, I want to talk about this. And this is my favorite learning from David Hawkins, is that observation that we like to either stuff it, escape from it, or talk about it. So that is my three things I would say. And I would also say, this is, again, David Hawkins and other people have fancy degrees and have fancy things about them. I don't have any fanciness. I am going to offer this one little thing. I am starting through experiencing the experiment. I am beginning to question the idea that humans are evolutionarily predisposed to look for danger. I'm starting to question that. And the reason for that, and I do not need to talk anybody out of that. I don't have the credentials. You all just seem cool enough that I feel safe enough saying crazy shit in front of you. Here is why. I am starting to think about the way I experience nature, and it for sure is paying attention. When I say nature, I mean trees, plants, and animals that live in the city, because that's majority of my nature. So, right? I do think they are in tune. I am not convinced that they are vigilant. And so that makes me wonder, are we actually predisposed to that level of vigilance, which I have read and heard and been told so many times? I'm just throwing that in there for fun. Do what you will with that. And that's through my experience with the experiment that I've just started to go, is that really true? I don't know. Okay, let's look at time. Oh my gosh, we have just 2 minutes. Let's do a brief one. We will not spend a lot of time talking about it. A brief experiment. We're going to do 1 minute. And this is going to be the invitation. Wow, it's taking a minute. We're going to feel the feeling of Oh, does anybody have an idea? I'm not getting one. I'm feeling like maybe one of you have an idea. Okay, everybody hear that one? This invitation. Okay, the most controversial thought from this caller. What was the second one? Will you say the second part of it? Or, oh, yes, great. Feeling feelings of those big moments in this call. We'll do 1 minute on that. Go ahead. That was a minute on that invitation. And we just have a minute or two if people have experiences they'd like to share or questions from that. And thank you for that. Oh my gosh, I should end every single call with that one. Ooh, thank you for that. The experiment is delightful in many situations for me, and I expect rabbit and I get horse. Wow, okay. Yeah, yeah, yes. Oh my gosh. Okay, wow. Because we cannot. Because here we are at the end of our agreed to time. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. I feel the feeling of your thoughts. Woo! Here's how I would like to conclude our time. I do this every week. Sometimes is one person here. Sometimes there are eight. Sometimes there are every number in between. I would love to have you come back. It feels different every time. It looks different. It is designed just the way I said. We go with what shows up. Oh my gosh. In my experience so far, 6 months and 3 weeks, or maybe 7 months, I don't know. This is like the vitamin that fuels my week. I have skipped a couple of weeks and I missed it. That is the beauty. This experiment is teaching me how to teach it. And the only thing I've ever done around it has fed me. And it's become my new standard for my life. Thank you for that question. There's a couple things I want to say before we go. One is, and David Hawkins talks about this, when his method is wildly powerful, was for him and for many, many, many people. And one of the things he talks about is our egos will not like you doing this because this is creating freedom and space inside of you. It is removing the war inside of you, however you want to think about that, whatever the right metaphor is. Our egos will be uncomfortable. And so what he recommends and what I do and what I recommend as well is that you pay attention to how this is changing you. And usually what is changing in you will not be obvious to you because it's happening in such a gentle way. But other people will say to you, oh, you handled that differently. Oh, have you lost weight? Or you look different, or you're acting different. You used to get mad about that. You're not mad. Keep track of that evidence. It's wildly helpful to just deal with your ego. Other thing is, which is just trying to protect us. Anyway, the other thing is practicing this in your life, just here and there. You may pick a thing in your life that becomes your reminder. Every time I pick up a pen, every time I zip a zipper, every time I eat an orange, whatever, and just have that be a reminder. But in the end, in my experience, everything in life is an invitation to feel the feeling of it. Every single thing, every moment is an invitation. And if you completely forget about this after this call, that's fine. It is absolutely perfect because this is built for you by you. My prediction is you will start noticing more and more invitations. And I've heard from other people coming to this call is just a nice reminder of this. I do see a comment and I want to make sure we're out here on time. The more complex your brain is, the more complex narrative ego is going to, yes, to keep you in the same place. Absolutely true. And so again, when your ego wants to say to you, this is so silly, great. Feel the feeling. This is so silly. Who the hell is Sarah Stern? You don't know her. Great. Feel the feeling. Who the hell is Sarah Stern? You don't know her. If you have a thought, oh, who would change David Hawkins' work? Great. Feel the feeling. Who in the world would change David Hawkins' work? This is it's just such a silly fun, again, trickster everywhere in this. One last piece. I have a very little baby, not very professional Instagram account where I put invitations out. I used to have a private group, and then I realized, why am I keeping this private? So it's try _ the experiment. I put little invitations, like things like feel the feeling of petting your dog. Feel the feeling of eating your meal. Feel the feeling of spicy food. Feel the feeling of clouds going by. Feel the feeling of political headlines that drive you crazy. Things like that are what I'm putting out there, as well as other silly little things. So very not professional, totally embarrassing. I get to feel the feeling of embarrassing, and it's growing and it's building. So again, I'm just trying to put free things out there. The recording of this call takes all of you talking. I have a person who edits that out and puts just the me part out on YouTube. That's out there as well as the experiment. So again, just little things out there to keep this alive in your lives. I would love to have you back. It was a joy to have you here today. I hope your weeks, well, I know they'll give you lots of things to feel. Thanks for being here. Thank you.